We remove item 14 from our agenda because I've heard that they are working on that property.
Right. I would like to recommend that I would like to move that we remove item 14 from the agenda.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilman Miles to remove item 14.
Second.
A second from Councilman Thomas. Is there any discussion on this? Okay, there being none, let's vote. Oh, just vote by lifting hand. Okay, that's unanimous, so we'll remove that item from the agenda. Are there any more additions or deletions for the agenda tonight? Okay, there are none. Are there any comments from the public on any item on our agenda? Okay, there are none. First, we have item number 1, to adopt the minutes of the Minden City Council regular session held on April 2nd, 2024. Can I get a motion we do this?
So moved.
I have a motion from Councilman Pendergrass.
Second.
Second from Councilwoman Mitchell. Any discussion on this? All right, there being none, let's vote. And this passed unanimously. Next, we have item 2, adopt the minutes of the Minden City Council special session held on April 18th, 2024. What's the wishes of the council?
So moved.
Have a motion from Councilwoman Mitchell.
Second.
Second from Councilman Thomas. Any discussion on this? Okay, there's none. Let's vote. And this passed unanimously. Next, we have item 3, the audit presentation for 2022 through 2023, Allen Green and Williamson.
Mayor, council members, staff, and guests, it's our pleasure to be here. I'm Tim Green with Allen Green and Williamson, partner with the firm, and then I also have with me Jenny Henry, who's the audit manager for the firm, and she was kind of in charge of the audit for this year. And we were just going to hit a few highlights that's included in your report. I think you maybe have an agenda that I might just kind of work from the agenda, if that's okay. But it has the page numbers as to, specifically in the report, as to where you would need to look to for more information in regards to it. So I was going to kind of cover the financial part of it, which on the agenda is the top half of your page of the agenda.
I didn't.
Oh, didn't? Okay.
I didn't insert that.
All right. Sorry. I was thinking you had a copy of it, but I guess this is agenda for me to talk to you about. So, okay. We'll take and just, if you would, if you got the book, we'll flip to page 5 in your report, which is the whole purpose of our audit is to present, to audit you and to make sure the financial statements that are in the report are accurate. And that opinion that starts on page 5 basically says you have an unmodified opinion, which is the best opinion you can have. It's basically saying there's no adjustments that we're aware of that needs to be made to the financial statements for you to rely on them. So again, that's the best opinion you get. So you did receive that opinion from us in that regards. And again, that's on page 5 to 8 of that document. If you'll flip to page, I guess, in your report, page 28 and 30, maybe turn to page 30 would maybe be where to look at as far as this is kind of your general fund and probably the fund that you work with the most and have the most interest in. If it'll reflect there on page 30, column 1 is your general fund. You've got a couple other sales tax collection funds that you've got there that are reflected under special revenue, the sewage sales tax, and then the sales tax fund. And then you have, we kind of group, according to the professional standards, we sort of group any small funds under that non-major governmental column there. And later in the report, you can find the details of that. A lot of that's the TIF fund, or if it's not the TIF fund, which is the tax incentive funds that you have for a lot of the districts. Then the STEP program is also there, that you're collecting the fines and so forth on the highway. And those are kind of combined under that, and those are included later in the report. If you had a particular interest in that, we could flip to that, and you could look specifically at that. I think that's on page 92 and 93 of your handbook, or of your report, is where those TIF funds are. If you hold your finger in place there and maybe just flip to it, and then we'll come back to the general fund. But on page 93 kind of shows you the revenues and expenditures for the year. Page 93. And it shows you each of the districts, and then again, the STEP program is over to the right. The STEP program really is beefed up this year, and you're receiving much more revenue out of that. And if you'll notice there in the STEP column, which is the next to last column, you collected $750,000 plus this year from that program. It kind of shows you what the expenses are and so forth of it, and then it reflects that basically there was about $400,000 worth of excess for the year. That's where it shows excess. So excess or deficiencies of revenues over expenditures, about 2/3 down the page. You'll notice there's $418,000 that's reflected there. And right below it, you'll see where most of that was transferred out to the particular entities that it belongs to, and particular departments within the city. Okay. But you'll notice there the fund balance in each of these funds. The TIF District 1 had $65,000. District 2 had almost $700,000. $8,000 for TIF District 3, and District 4 had $10,000 that's reflected as far as those funds. For the year, all of them had excess for the year that the revenues exceeded the expenditures for the year. Okay. Any questions on those pages or on that page? Okay. If not, just kind of going back to the general fund, which is back on page 30. You'll notice there that the general fund had collections for the year of $5 million, just over $5 million. This is in the first column. And then we had expenditures of $17 million. A lot of that, which at that point you're short quite a bit, but transfers in from the sales tax funds, from the utility fund and so forth comes in, and as a result, the net change in fund balance almost to the bottom of the page, that would be your excess or deficiency for the year, or basic sort of profit or loss for the year. And in the general fund, you were had a loss of $30,000 for the year. Okay. And then kind of ended up the year with $760,000 as far as fund balance in the general fund, which is kind of consistent, pretty much except for the $30,000, consistent with what it was the previous year. Okay. You'll notice the sales tax fund right in the second column down at the bottom, the net change there was in excess of $380,000. So you collected $4,037,000. You spent $3 million, or you spent about $60,000, and then you transferred out another $3.6 million out of that to the other funds and so forth, and ended the year with $380,000 excess. You have quite a balance in those two funds, the two sales tax funds. You've got $4.2 million balance in the regular sales tax, and in the sewage sales tax, you have $5.7 million. So you almost have like a year's reserve. If you notice up at the top, you're collecting about $4 million from each of those, from sales tax in each of those funds, and you have a little bit over that amount as far as fund balance. So you've got built up about a year's worth of balance on that. Sewage, even a little bit more than that, maybe a year, 1.3 months, or a year plus 3 months that's kind of built up. So you have very good fund balances in that. And Michael Fleur must have been keeping his thumb on things in those past years and built up that fund balance. But okay. Okay, let's see. The last comment on page 30 is, again, you kind of, if you look over the very total column for all governmental funds, you'll notice for the year, we had about $200,000 excess for the year. And between all of your funds, you have almost $12 million in fund balance on that. So I think those are a good place to be on those. Okay. Just a couple more things, and then I'll turn it over to Jenny and let her speak. On page 33 is your kind of your utility funds. And kind of shows there that you collected $24.6 million as far as total operating revenues. You see your expenses there at 21.5 basically. You had operating income of $3.1 million after you deduct your expenses from your revenues. You have just a handful there as reflected non-operating revenues. They kind of, in the external financial reporting, they want you to kind of separate what sort of operating revenues and expenses from non-operating. And so you've got a couple of items there listed. One of the nice things is that you'll notice under non-operating is you had interest income about $260,000. And as you know, in previous years, the interest rate was so low, you got peanuts, so to speak, for any investment you had. And so that's nice that you've got that amount of interest income that's coming in to kind of help on your programs and so forth. Anyway, you ended up the year with about $80,000 loss for the year. Change in that position was a loss, and then you see the fund balances that are reflected there. Okay. This year, one of the things you did not have was, and it may seem surprising or whatever, you did not have a single audit this year, which meant you did not spend $750,000 in federal dollars. You have, as you know, you got the ARPA money that's $4 million or something, and you haven't spent that. And so as a result, if you don't have $750,000 worth of federal dollars, you don't have to do a single audit. So we didn't have to do a single audit this year, which the single audit, really, you're focusing on the federal dollars. The federal government's not too concerned about your local operations. They're just concerned about how did you spend the federal dollars, and you did not have enough for us to be required to have a single audit. So this next year, if you spend most of that money, for your federal dollars, we'll have to go back and do a single audit for this new year we're now in.
So it's just a single audit on that money? It doesn't matter if we spend $2 million, it's just a single audit?
It's a single audit if you spend $750,000 of federal dollars.
Right, but I'm saying if we spend $2 million of that ARPA money.
Right.
It's one audit we have to do?
That would be a kind of a supplemental audit to this.
Okay.
And so, yes.
But you also had expenditures from the airport that probably next year will push you over that too. So next year we'll probably have to test the airport and the ARPA money.
So the grants come into play in that audit as well?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Might let Ms. Jenny, as a result on your financial part, I think you're in good shape, pretty good shape as far as your financials. You've got some fund balances. You got a lot of money in those sales tax funds that can be used for certain purposes, and just need to keep it up, keep ticking on it. So, but I'll let her talk about the comments and so forth in the back of the report and ways that we think you can improve your system.
Okay, first I'll start off with the findings from last year. So on page 108 and 109, you'll see the findings from last year. There were 5 findings last year, and 2 of those were completely cleared. So when y'all get to those, finding number 4 from last year, the bid law, we tested bids, there were no exceptions. There were no issues that we found. Also finding on the 2022-05 pledged securities for the banks, and we had talked about this last year, about the bank has to have securities pledged to serve as collateral for whatever your balances are, and we didn't have any issues with the banks this year. The other 3 findings did roll over into this year. Okay, so let's look at this year's findings, and that's on page 105. There are only 2 findings this year, okay? The 2 Finding 1 and 2 from 22, we just put into one finding, controls over financial reporting. And this has to do with financial reporting on a lot of different fields, okay? It has improved greatly, but did not improve enough to be considered it to be solved or completed. There were some bank reconciliations that were not performed monthly, okay? They're performed at the year end. And this had to do with some of the small accounts that had to do with the police department. Okay, they are reconciled, but Wise Cullen Martin does that at the end of the year. There were also some reconciliations for balance sheet accounts at year end that need to be looked at, okay? And 3 employees, we look at the computer system access. Who has access to what different systems in the computer? And 3 employees had access to things that we didn't think fit into their job duties. Okay, so they may have access to one other type item or something like that. Okay, the next finding is budget adoption. Last year, there was a budget finding because the budget wasn't passed timely. And I think, and that was all the, the predecessor council. We all know what happened at that point. This year, it's budget adoption for the STEP program. According to state budget law, if you have revenue over $500,000, then you have to have a budget for that fund, okay? In the past, the revenue wasn't over that point, but this year it was substantially over. I mean, this year, as we saw, it was $750,000, okay? So this year and proceeding, y'all will need to have a budget for the STEP program. Okay, is there any question about the findings? Okay.
Y'all ask any questions? I've already heard all this in a draft form twice, so y'all ask your questions if you have some.
I mean, my only question is, and I think I speak most every time, is, has this been corrected? Because I know some of the reconciliations have been going on for several years, since I've been on the council, and that still is lingering, and so I hope that with Mulaney, that will be handled, and we'll have that taken off the list.
We're already working with Wise Martin and Cole, and with CJ and Chief, we're already meeting up with them. We got everything together today. Wise Martin and Cole's gonna help us come over and get the process going, get it caught up, and to where we can stay on top of it. So we are working with that with Christina very closely.
And then there was some money that had been sitting out there to the tune of $50,000 that we've not known quite what to do with that. It was in the police department's budget, and did we ever get that final reconciled, what we were gonna do, how we can do things like that?
It went to, as far as the money, it went to the court. Judge voted on how it was dispersed, and I believe Wise Martin and Cole spoke with CJ on creating a system to make sure, I don't remember the exact days, after so many days they're supposed to disperse. But Wise Martin and Cole is also helping us with that as well. And then, like I said, the judge made his ruling a while back on that $50,000 on how to disperse it out to get it to where it needs to be and keep up with it.
Can we, I wasn't copied in on it, I'd like to know where it went, and how he ruled. I don't know if the rest of the council did or not, but I would like to be up to date if that's not a problem.
Well, I can find that out for you tomorrow, the exact amounts.
Okay, and if we turn to page 112, there's a couple items that we just have suggestions to management. And the bond, that one that Councilman Roy was talking about, that was a management letter item last year. But this year, one that's repeated is the time clock system. Y'all have a time clock system, but it doesn't seem like all the departments are using that. Now, that was at fiscal year end. When we finished the audit, some of the other departments had been on this system, but we feel if you have the system, then it should be used, across the whole city, okay? Not going back to paper. The second management letter on 113 is disbursement process. For some of the small accounts for the police department, the checks were being written at the police department, and we just think all disbursements should go through the accounting department for the whole city to just make it consistent. So any questions about those two items?
I don't guess so.
Okay. We also did have to do state AUPs. These are the procedures that the legislative auditor has us due, and there were 3 items noted. None of these were major. For bank recons, there was 1 item that was over a year old. Credit card, there was a late fee on 1 credit card. I think they were waiting on documentation. And for one of them, there was not a break in duties. Ralph that does AP, he could also modify our vendor information. And we suggested that make sure that was a separated duty. So,
And that has been separated.
so any other questions about those?
All right. Like I said, we'll be happy to answer any other questions you may have. You have a fairly good report. We have a couple of things that work on to improve, and we've, as the mayor said, we've kind of discussed that with management, and they have a plan of action that's included in your report in the back, and so I just encourage you to look at it. We would, as far as the time clocks, we really think you've got the system in place and that you've got most of the departments that are using that program. I think it could save time, but it certainly would provide better internal control, et cetera. And we would just encourage the city to try and get that adopted for all of its departments and so forth on it. So, again, fairly good report as far as your financials, and then just a couple of things to work on as far as that. As she mentioned to you, there have some of the prior year comments have been cleared, and so that's a good thing, and let's just keep proceeding with that. We would like to thank Mulaney and her staff for the work that they're done. She seems to be very conscientious and just needs to learn a little bit more about governments and governmental procedures and laws and et cetera, and I think she'll be able to do a good job on it. We certainly enjoyed working with Mr. Fleur, although I was kidding him there a minute ago that he didn't take his humor, but anyway, we hope him great fun in retirement and so forth, and we appreciate all the help that he's been over the last couple of years as we've done the audit, and look forward to continuing work with Mulaney.
I do have one more question. So when we get into spending this ARPA money and we start doing this secondary audit that you're gonna have to perform, is that gonna be additional charges to the city, or is this set fee that y'all charge us now, will that encompass that as well?
I think the single audit is separate. It has a lot of overlap to it with the regular audit, but there are certain additional steps we have to take. A lot of times when we're doing the single audit, we can kind of use some of the testing we're doing in our regular audit, financial audit, for the single audit, and so it's not incremental. It's not like 2 complete audits. It's just kind of a supplement to what we're doing. But yes, I think there's additional costs that would be associated with that if you have a single audit. Or saying it differently, if we don't have a single audit, then the fees are less as a result.
So maybe you'll pass that along, so, because we're getting ready for budget time, we'll need to budget, because I know we've got to start spending this ARPA money before we lose it.
All right. Mulaney, how far y'all, or do you think you are definitely going to exceed the $750,000 this year?
Oh, we're going to go way
Yeah,
over.
we got to spend it.
Yeah,
All right, we'll look at that and let them know.
okay, thank you.
Okay?
All right, thank y'all very much. We appreciate y'all's hard work. And Mulaney, good job getting through the audit. I think you're doing a fantastic job. And also, Mr. Fleur is here, and this is another opportunity for me to thank you for your leadership and service while you were here also. Thank you again. We've heard the audit report. Can I get a motion that we accept this?
So moved.
I have a motion from
Take your pick.
Councilman Roy and a second from Councilman Pendergrass. Any discussion on this? There's none. Let's vote on it. Okay, good deal. And this passes unanimously. Again, it was a very good audit, and I think that should be the ultimate takeaway. Next, we have item 4, appointment, Mended Main Street Program Downtown Development Commission. And it's been recommended by the Main Street Director that we appoint Claudine Thomas to fill an unexpired term, and this new term will expire in September of 2025. I think that's a great choice. What's the wishes of the council?
So moved.
Have a motion from Councilman Miles and a second from Councilman Pendergrass. Any discussion? There's none. Let's vote. Okay, congratulations. Y'all give her a hand, guys. She's on the Main Street. Next, we have item 5, adopt ordinance number 1143, an ordinance establishing no-through truck traffic signs on Country Club Circle between its intersections with Louisville Road and Homer Road, providing for the installation of no-through truck traffic signs with reflectors, and providing penalties for the violation thereof. So I'll just, a little explanation. It's been requested by several citizens that live on Country Club that children are often jumping out of the road because of 18-wheelers, and then also the condition of that road. The city spent a lot of funds redoing it, and the citizens through that area would like to see it be maintained, and we know the best way to do that is to keep heavy truck traffic off of there. So what's the wishes of the council?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion from Councilman Pendergrass and a second from Councilman Roy. Any discussion on this? There being none, let's vote. And this passes unanimously. Next, we have item 6, adopt ordinance number 1144, an ordinance to provide for the sale of adjudicated properties and further providing respect thereto. We have a lot of adjudicated properties on our roster that the city has allocated or adjudicated to us, and we met with an attorney a month or so ago, or last month, and visited with her, and she has a process that would allow her to step in and help the city and help the citizens that were interested in the adjudicated properties. She has a process that she'll help move that process along. She's an attorney and she knows how to do it. She does it for an awful lot of North Louisiana parishes and a few cities, and we would like to make this ordinance that would allow for that. What's the wishes of the council?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion from Councilwoman Mitchell and a second from Councilman Roy. Any discussion on this? There's none. Let's vote. And this passes unanimously. So that's the ordinance to set that up. The next item is authority for Mayor Cox to enter into a cooperative agreement between the City of Minden and E&P Consulting Services, LLC, for the City of Minden Adjudicated Property Program. So we made our ordinance in the last motion. This just allows us to agree with her to be able to pass that management off to her. What's the wishes of the council?
So moved.
Have a motion from Councilman Miles.
Second.
Second from Councilwoman Mitchell. Any discussion?
Mayor, just point out that this process doesn't cost the city anything.
Yeah,
It's
that's
all-
very good. She handles it all and deals directly with the person interested in the particular properties. She handles the listing of it all, and it is of no cost to the city. The worst that happens is nothing happens. The best that happens is we get all these off our roll. And properties in the city that are either being maintained by the city or not being maintained will hopefully go back into the tax roll and be mowed and taken care of properly and hopefully loved and valued and improved. I have a motion in a second, correct? Okay, any more discussion? Okay, there being none, let's vote. This passed unanimously. Next, we have item 8, authority to advertise for bids for the perimeter fence at the Minden Airport. This is FAA and DOTD funding. It won't cost the city anything for that perimeter fence. It's grant money. What's the wishes of the council?
So moved.
Have a motion from Councilman Roy,
Second.
second from Councilwoman Mitchell. Any discussion on this?
Let's say the airport's looking good. Things are coming along great out there.
Good. Any more discussion? Okay, there being none, let's vote. And this passes unanimously. Next, we have item 9, award bid number 03-2024, branded unleaded gasoline and diesel fuel. So historically, the city, for the last, at least the last year or two, has gotten its fuel through Waller Petroleum. We put it out for bid, and Waller really was the only bidder on this year. So what's the wishes of the council?
So moved.
Have a motion from Councilman Pendergrass.
Second.
A second from Councilman Miles. Any discussion on this? There being none, let's vote. And that passed unanimously. Next, we have item 10, personnel, Minden Police Department new hire. It's been recommended by Chief Jared McIver that Zane Crittenden, full-time police officer for Minden Police Department. And Zane, you're here, right? Could you stand up and just let everybody see you? This is Zane. He's been recommended by Chief McIver. Chief, you have anything you need to input on this?
Good thing with Zane is he's already trained. He's a post-certified officer. He's been working at Dixie Inn and is moving over here to represent the city now for the police department. He's passed all tests that's required of him, and I think he'll be a good asset to the department.
Okay. What's the wishes of the council?
So moved.
Have a motion from Councilman Roy,
Second.
second from Councilman Pendergrass. Any discussion? Okay, there being none, let's vote. This passes unanimously. Would y'all welcome our new Minden Police Officer? Thank you, sir. We're glad to have you. Next, we have item 11, budget financial report for March 2024. Ms. Mulaney Langford.
Good afternoon, everyone. We did place a copy of their budget report on y'all's desk for y'all's review. Along with that, we did place wish list for the new budget coming up, so if y'all would be able to get that to me relatively soon so we can get that going. To start with sales tax for March, not including TIF districts, there was a total of $751 collected. March of last year, we collected $760, so it was a decrease of 1.19%. Ms. Cindy at the sales tax said we are paying a very large refund in installments, so that's the reason for the decrease, but our retail sales are steadily growing. Along with that, cash and banks for March ended at $23,978,000. It was an increase of roughly $300,000 compared to last month, but it was just the way the APs played out this month, so.
Are there any questions for Ms. Langford? Okay, there's none and no actions needed. The fire chief is not here, so we'll move to the police report. Chief Jerry McIver.
Okay, as you have before you, the police report and the total amount at the bottom, which is $17,683.50, and ask that the council would accept the police report as put forward.
You've been presented with the police report. Can I get a motion we accept it?
So moved.
Got a motion from Councilman Pendergrass and a second from Councilman Roy. Any discussions or questions on that? All right, there's none. Let's vote.
Okay, I was about to say.
And this passed unanimously. Chief?
Okay, so for the month of April, we have some crime statistics. Total number of arrests were 80. Citations issued were 651. Incident reports 158. Calls for service were 1,257. Traffic stops 845. Calls for service, less traffic stops 412. We did have around 47 accidents in the city. Animal control call-outs 11, alarm calls 38. Thefts are a little bit on the rise. We have 29, 7 burglaries, suspicious activity 33, and shots fired 2. So we do have some numbers coming down, but we also have things. We have a lot of, we're starting to see an increase, like I said, in cyber crimes, and we're also seeing a lot of folks that are coming into Minden from out of town, from other cities that are coming in to commit crimes. But our detectives are doing a good job. They're you know, a little later on, we'll have the statistics of the ones that we've and we've got a lot of warrants out for folks now that we've found doing some of the crimes. So they're doing a good job.
Are there any questions for the police chief? Okay, I'm sure I speak for the council, but for sure myself, good job to our police department, our fire department, put out an electrical fire today, and y'all worked together. And I'd also like to take a minute to thank our ward marshals. You know, I overlook them often, and if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't have safety in these meetings, and the list of what they do goes on, and I always appreciate what they do, and their presence in the city is a big asset. While I had a minute, I wanted to thank y'all. And while I'm in a good mood, I would like to, I just wish sometimes we had cheerleaders. You know, could we get those cheerleaders in here? Gym 413, once again, are champions. They went to the championship and won. And so I'd like to take a minute, now that our regular business has concluded, and just honor these gym members with a proclamation. Y'all come on up here. Let's just line up here. How y'all doing?
I'm good. How are
Good. Good to see y'all. I think y'all got taller since last year. You gonna get on this side? Thank y'all for coming, by the way. All right. Tonight we want to honor Team Power of Gym 413. I'm gonna let your parents come in here and they want to see this. Whereas the city of Minden seeks to recognize the important achievements of Team Power at Gym 413. And whereas Carly Zavadar and Kelsey Holloman coached Team Power, a 3.2 senior prep all-star cheer team made up of 15 athletes, ranging from 12 years old to 18 years old. And whereas these athletes have worked extremely hard, sometimes with physically taxing practices that may last 2 to 3 hours at a time. Most of the team members are even involved in other sports in the community. And whereas Gym 413 was honored during their 7th cheer season, the members of Team Power defended their title of Divisional National All-Star Champions during the 2024 National Cheerleaders Association competition held on March 1st, 2024. Now, therefore, Mayor Cox and the Council of the City of Minden, see, I do this enthusiastically because they're cheerleaders, would like to formally recognize Team Power of Gym 413 on its extraordinary performance as the team demonstrated incredible skills, discipline, and sportsmanship at the National Cheerleaders Association Championship. Congratulations. Squeeze in tight. Man, that's super.
Hey, what about Savannah?
So proud. Minden is full of winners. Just full of winners. Champions.
1, 2, 3. Let's hold up with one, people. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Thank y'all.
Good job, everyone.
What? I wanted them to do a high kick or a cheer or something, but I'm so tempted right now. What a great city, huh? It's a great city. Are there any announcements from anyone in the audience, anything that they need to share or would like to say? April? Okay.
standing right here. We have our Grilling on Main coming up in June, and I am in need of some judges. So if you would like to be a barbecue competition judge for the Grilling on Main, it's Saturday, June 8th. Please contact City Hall, just ask for HR lady, and I'll put you on the list. I'll need to know what meat you would like to try and taste. If you've ever judged before, that's very helpful. We have chicken, brisket, or ribs, and that's Saturday, June 8th. Thank you.
Thank you, April. April, if y'all don't know, she is our city HR director, but she's also, I don't know if HR stands for Human Resources or just hard worker, which is a W anyway. But she is a she is a hard worker. We appreciate all she does. Are there any other announcements? Okay. Okay.
Here a while back, y'all put a one-way street back on Green Street, and I'm sure y'all got, some negativity with some knuckleheads, but I just want to let everybody know that because of the fire truck was able to get back there and do their job today. So, maybe hindsight's 20/20, but it probably saved several buildings. So anyway.
Thank you. That's good feedback. All our public safety people were agreeing that it was helpful, so that's good. Thank you for that. Any more comments from the audience on anything? Okay.
I just want to thank y'all. I live on Country Club Circle, and I've been the one that's been pushing this for over a year, but it is very much appreciated.
Thank you, Ms. Dumas. We appreciate you. Okay, Councilman Pendergrass?
Thank you both for that feedback. As you both know, a lot of times we get a lot of the negative feedback, but we don't get the follow-up with the positive. So thank you for saying that. Congratulations to Gym 413, very impressive. And then wanted to wish good luck to the Glenbrook baseball team. They headed south to Lake Charles today to play in the state semifinals. So hopefully they'll win tomorrow and get to play for the finals on Friday. And congratulations to Minden High School for making their deep run into the baseball playoffs. So there are some superb high school athletes in this town, and beneath them, Minden is loaded with athletic talent. So it's going to be a fun time to live in Minden over the next decade or two, sports-wise.
Councilman Roy? Councilwoman Mitchell?
No.
Councilman Thomas? Councilman Miles?
Nothing.
Police Chief? Yes, sir. Wow. Well, I've got a graduation to go to. Meeting adjourned.
So you got your?
Phone number and then what category you would like, okay? So we think chicken. Okay, well, I'll put you in the free one.